All right, some breaking news coming in right now from the United States, where a shooting has taken place in Minneapolis school. In fact, as per the latest, at least 3 have died, 20 have been injured in that shooting. Yet another shooting incident being reported from the United States, and what's been a deadly year so far itself. In fact, that shooting has taken place at a school is what is known as of now. 3 dead, 20 injured, and the authorities are saying that the shooter was among those killed. That's the latest coming in at this point. Initial details. Let's go live to the Minneapolis mayor, meanwhile, who is currently speaking.
That is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation? Any notes or any other information?
So we were looking, the question was, what can be said about the shooter? We believe it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive known criminal history. And we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah. How many children? There were, I don't have an exact, the question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them. Reg.
Other than the weapons, was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did you leave anything behind other than the weapons?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched, and we will be conducting other searches related to this. Inside the parking lot here. Yep.
There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep. So the question.
I will, of course, keep a close eye on the latest coming in from the United States. Yet another shooting. This one has taken place at that school in Minneapolis. 3 have been killed.
All right, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh. Baha Shem Yahweh Shai, Baha Shem Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Yahshua Shalom. All right, it's going to be real brief here. Just mentioning, because this thing that just happened, this active shooter event, okay, what did they say, Minneapolis, I think they said it was, okay. And so, you see it happen over and over and over, these little pop-up shooters, right? These jack-in-the-box shooters. Usually always Esau, okay? But you see these little jack-in-the-box shooters keep popping up, okay? And eventually, probably, maybe not, but these situations are going to come to a head. What I'm talking about is you got these jack-in-the-box shooters. At the same time, you have Trump, federalizing D.C. and talking about going to other states, and other states talking about sending troops to help Trump out with the federalization. And they don't even have to blame it on Jake, blame it on the tribes, right? All they have to do, just use that for, fuel to the fire, man. Okay, we're trying to make America great again. We're trying to do this, trying to do that. We can't do this, we got to stop this. You got to stop situations like this from happening. Just set Trump up to have, this extravagant, flamboyant, flabbergasted speech, to back up whatever move they make next. Now, I'm not saying that they're actually going to do something, but what I'm saying is it's very possible that these situations are going to come to a head. These jack-in-the-box shooters and the federalization, with these troops. And that could just, bring, more pressure, okay, more setting the tone for lockdowns or just troops, at least even being everywhere at the minimum, okay, troops being everywhere, okay, because we know he's not going to stop. They're not going to stop building up these so-called immigration camps. They're not going to stop sending these troops out to federalize this, that, and the third thing. They're not going to stop. And so, like I was saying, you keep seeing these jack-in-the-box shooters, and then you have this situation going on with the troops and stuff like that. So it's very likely that eventually these situations come to a head, okay, where it's going to happen in a city with those troops, or even if they don't. I mean, just look at what's happening, okay. This is just giving him a more reason to say we need to do more of this and more of that, or we need more troops here and more of that, and we need you local police to be involved, or at least support and assist, okay, or whatever the case may be. However it comes, if anything comes of it at all. Just pointing out, this was another situation that just happened. And actually, I don't even want this in particular sedition moment. It's not the real scripture I wanted. As a matter of fact, let me just go here to the chapter. I believe there's something in chapter 16 I wanted. Behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out until they consume the foundation of the earth. Let's talk about the missiles. We get this though. Woe is me, who would deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? Okay, and I believe we read this earlier. Yeah, we sure did. Going into the book of Revelation. There's a particular scripture I'm looking for. I may not be able to find it. But ultimately, because I can still make the point, whether that we can find the scripture. But yeah, it just gives them more reason to keep doing what they're doing. We have these situations that keep happening. We can't allow this to keep happening to our great country. And we gotta weed out the evil. We put the bad out. Whatever, however they play it, whether they play it against the tribes or whether they just play off of the situation itself, or whether it comes to a head with what he's doing with the troops. Doesn't really matter how it plays out. It's just that look at the situations happening, and they could use that as fuel for the fire. That's the baseline, okay? It gives them a reason to keep pushing forward with the things that they're doing and having a reason of why we're doing it, okay? So, very interesting there, with these jack-in-the-box shooters. Not saying it's the first one, just that you're seeing more of them happen. And it probably won't be the last. And I think they said 3 dead, 1 dead. One of those 3 dead was the shooter itself, and then you have 20 injured or something like that. So I don't know. Well, but we know what times we're in, man. Okay, well, it says the love of many shall wax cold, and where wax cold goes into cycle. Okay, so because we're living in dark, evil times, because the Lord is about to bring His final judgments upon the earth. So that's pretty much it. You can enjoy the rest of the news, Lord, where you edify. Shalom.
Victor saved Western's life. The lecture, violence.
How are you guys self-citizen? They need
The Florida Highway Patrol is the first state agency in the nation where nearly every trooper is now trained to enforce federal immigration law. It's part of the 287G program created in the 1996 Immigration Reform Act, which lets state officers work under ICE supervision. State officials say more than 1,700 of the state's 1,800 troopers are now credentialed as designated immigration officers. Since March, they've helped lead more than 3,500 detentions. The program allows troopers to check immigration status during routine traffic stops. The Wall Street Journal ride-along in Palm Beach County showed how it plays out. Troopers pulled over vehicles for violations while ICE agents checked federal databases. That day, about 24 people were detained, and 2 briefly escaped before one was later caught. Supporters call it a whole-of-government tool that removes immigrants with criminal records. But critics, including the ACLU, warn it could open the door to racial profiling and civil rights abuses. Advocacy groups are reminding immigrants of their rights, including the right to remain silent and to refuse entry to officers without a judge's warrant. Florida has poured nearly $300 million into immigration enforcement, even opened a detention center in the Everglades, though a federal judge has ordered parts of that facility dismantled. State leaders say they're pressing ahead and hope the model spreads to other states.
President Donald Trump appeared to change the nation's policy on Chinese student visas on Monday, announcing he is allowing a massive wave of students into the U.S. It's a shift from a policy Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced in May that said the U.S. is revoking visas from Chinese students.
I hear so many stories about we're not going to allow their students, or we're going to allow their students to come in. We're going to allow, it's very important, 600,000 students.
U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told Fox News' Laura Ingraham Monday that Trump sought for the students to help the 15% of colleges who would face closures without a boost in attendance. Trump has not detailed how or if the visas would be allocated. The president's announcement drew sharp criticism from some of his closest allies, like Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. She wrote on X that, quote, if refusing to allow these Chinese students to attend our schools causes 15% of them to fail, then these schools should fail anyways because they are being propped up by the CCP. Trump noted that relations between the U.S. and China have improved since the Biden administration, warranting a new economic approach.
We have a very strong relationship, Howard, I would say, economically with China now, getting much better.
Trump has threatened to impose a 200% tariff on imports from China, but has suspended the levy until at least November.
Tariff tirade against a range of Indian goods has taken effect, and labor-intensive industries like textile exports are preparing to feel the heat of a whopping 50% slab, the highest among Asian countries. How are textile exporters preparing for impact of these crippling duties? Here's a report.
Across India's textile export hubs, it appears to be business as usual on the surface. But uneasiness hangs in the air. With 50% US tariffs taking effect on Indian export goods, this labor-intensive industry is bracing for impact. The sky-high rate leaves India facing a likely slump in trade with its largest export market in the US. Several export businesses are contemplating a halt in operations, unclear on what the future holds and how long they can sustain. For others carrying on, uncertainty looms large, with increased competition from other countries in South Asia alone.
We have so much competition from other countries like China, Vietnam, Bangladesh. So their duties are less, around 20%. China is 30%, Bangladesh is 20%, Vietnam they got a deal of 19%. So that way, 20% versus 50%, this is too much for India. And definitely our buyers are, why they will buy Indian goods, if they are getting something cheaper from other countries. And that's a huge challenge for Indian manufacturers, Indian exporters, textile exporters.
Negotiations with the US standing postponed. The Indian government is looking to diversify trade. Plans are underway to initiate outreach programs in 40 countries, including key markets like the UK, Japan, and South Korea. But exporters are hesitant of diversification, unsure of how much export can these alternative trade partners absorb. For some textile exporters, US accounts for anything between 50 to 80% of their business. With each passing day, the stakes are higher. Thousands of jobs are on the line. There is little hope that diversification and domestic consumption can mitigate the billions in losses. But the textile export fraternity holds on to hope that the US and India, two countries with long-standing trade relations, can find a way back to the negotiating table, and soon.
With American tariffs taking effect
on Indian goods, there is a sense of uncertainty within exporters, markets and industries such as this one. But exporters are hoping that a quick solution is reached, and there is a sense of urgency in the air as unpredictability surrounds exporters, particularly in the textile industry. Now, the ramifications are huge, and the trickle-down effect is on everyone, right from owners down to the laborers and daily wage earners. There is still hope that amid all the unpredictability and high competition in the global market, that both US and India will reach some sort of consensus and hopefully a lower tariff rate in the future. But for exporters, timing is of essence. With video journalist Joy, this is Dharamjot Kaur for WION World is One.
Energy blitz left over 100,000 Ukrainian homes in total darkness. Moscow is pushing deeper into the critical Dnipropetrovsk region, giving Kyiv a severe strategic blow. Russia warned Europe hard against sending troops to Ukraine, raising stakes in this brutal war.
Ukraine plunges into darkness. Over 100,000 homes across Poltava, Sumy and Chernihiv are without power after a relentless wave of Russian drone attacks targeted vital electricity and gas infrastructure. The hit on gas pipelines and power stations sends shockwaves through energy supplies, forcing hospitals and essential services into crisis management as Kyiv scrambles to restore light. Kyiv has also stepped up its attacks on Russian energy infrastructure in recent weeks. Gas stations have run dry in some regions of Russia after Ukrainian drones struck Russian refineries and other oil infrastructure. Ukraine says it is using its homegrown new long-range missile known as Flamingo. On the battlefield, Russia claims new ground in the Dnipropetrovsk region, a crucial front line that Kyiv quietly confirms has seen incursions. This marks a significant setback for the Ukrainian military, threatening to shift the balance in one of the war's fiercest theaters. Russia issues a stark warning to Europe: no foreign boots on Ukrainian soil. Moscow flatly rejects any European troops deployments, branding them as dangerous provocations that threaten to escalate the conflict further. Kremlin officials dismiss prospects of a meeting with Zelensky anytime soon. On the ground, the front lines are shifting Russia, which now occupies around 1/5 of Ukraine. It has advanced in recent months in a grinding campaign against Kyiv's smaller, outgunned army. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Pakistan has evacuated more than 100,000 people from eastern Punjab province. That's after a cross-border flood alert from neighbouring India. Heavy monsoon rains have been battering both countries for months, and India told Pakistan it would have to release water from overflowing dams and swollen rivers. It was the first official and public diplomatic contact between the two countries since they almost came to the brink of war several months ago. Pakistan has been particularly badly hit this monsoon season. Higher than average rainfalls have triggered flash flooding and landslides that have killed nearly 800 people nationwide. The country's National Disaster Management Authority has urged people to avoid unnecessary travel and to stay away from rivers and streams. But this contact is an example of life-saving cooperation and cooperation on climate change, something that both countries are affected by.
Xã Tông Sơn, tỉnh Thanh Hóa. Sự cố vỡ kênh biệt trên tuyến các đê tả Hữu Sông Chu và đê tả sông Hoạt. Hiện nay, tỉnh
vào phòng ngủ của một nhà dân tại bản Hòa Sơn. Rất may trước đó chính quyền xã Mường Xén đã sơ tán kịp thời 9 hộ dân ở đây khỏi vùng nguy hiểm tới nơi an toàn. Thiệt hại đến thời điểm hiện tại của tỉnh Nghệ An là 1.300 tỷ đồng.
A strange object is drifting through the cosmos. The James Webb Space Telescope has captured images that leave even top scientists puzzled. Is it a comet, an asteroid, or something far more extraordinary? Take a look.
It looks like a comet. It behaves like an asteroid. Yet, in the latest images from the James Webb Space Telescope, the object appears to defy simple explanations. And that's why the debate has exploded: comet, asteroid, or could it be a spaceship? A new visitor is screaming through our cosmic neighborhood, and it's causing quite a stir. Meet 3I Atlas, an interstellar object moving at a blistering 60 kilometers per second. First spotted in July, this celestial anomaly has a trajectory so statistically improbable, it's raising eyebrows at the highest levels of astrophysics. Its path includes a series of impossibly close flybys of Mars, the Sun, and Jupiter, a sequence of cosmic coincidences with a probability of just 0.05%. Now the James Webb Space Telescope's Deep Space Eye caught the mysterious traveler glowing faintly against the black canvas of space. Its trail is odd, not the fiery, predictable streak of a comet, not the silent, rock-like stillness of an asteroid. Instead, it shows unusual movement, almost calculated, almost deliberate. Is this a probe masking as a comet? Is the brightness an engineered signal? NASA says no. The world isn't so sure. With closest approach set for December, every eye is glued to the sky. Whatever happens next, it's clear. The sky has sent us another mystery, and the silence between the stars just got louder. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.